Creator, Redeemer, and Sanctifier. Please be seated. There's a Cherokee story about a grandfather and a grandson. And the grandson runs in really angry about an injustice that had been done to him. And the grandfather says, "I too have felt a great hate for those who have taken so much with no sorrow for what they have done. But hate wears you down." You can think of it like this, that there are two wolves inside of all of us, inside of me. One that lives in harmony with the world, one that loves and has kindness and peace everywhere it goes, and will fight when it is right to fight. And one that is so full of anger and resentment and outrage, it will fight at the littlest thing. He's helpless to the anger, and it changes absolutely nothing. We have both, and sometimes it's really hard to live with both wolves. And the grandson says, "Grandfather, which one will win?" And the grandfather says, "The one you feed, the one that I feed." I was thinking of this story because for me, you could think of outrage in place of the word anger for the wolf. It seems to be a constant companion in my life right now. If it's not the news or social media or even everyday conversations that are filled with frustration and anger. Am I alone on this? Has anyone experienced this lately? Yeah. And it's so easy to feed that wolf of anger and outrage when I feel there's a lot of wrongs in the world. That hasn't changed, right? There's always been a lot of wrongs in the world. I mean, just today, my sister, who you've heard about, who lost her home in the hurricane, we were hoping to kind of pull her out of it just to have a little week away. And she told me today with great sorrow and said, "I can't come. I work at the VA. I'm afraid to leave my job because I'm afraid I will lose my job." Her and her partner both work at the VA. And I see lots of injustices in the world right now. And as a person of faith, I believe it's my call to witness those who are harmed right now, to walk alongside and to call out any injustices that I see. That's a privilege I hold and an honor that I hold as a Christian. But the truth is I get swept up in all of the outrage. Let's just take a beat a little bit and talk about the science of outrage. It's a response to injustice. It's a natural response to injustice. It compels us to fight or to flight. Dr. Molly Crockett, who's a neuroscientist who studies moral emotions, and in particular outrage in connection to social media, she says that it is a very powerful motivator. Of course it is, right? Talk about fight or flight actions. It feeds right into it. But in this day and age, where these reactions that we have on social media and the 24 news cycle, where it has become profitable to get a response out of us, that we now have this amplification of outrage. Amplification of outrage, and when there's an actual increase of outrage, what happens? We're completely and totally flooded. In this divided world, this real life frustration coupled with motivation to induce outrage just creates fatigue. when we activate that flight and fight to something that we know, our ancestors gave us this feeling, just like they did. When they saw something go wrong and were motivated and act on that one thing, that discriminate thing, that defined and targeted thing, it can be life-giving. That's the feeling that comes from it. Life-giving. But if we're indiscriminate with our outrage, i.e. doom scrolling, anyone guilty of doom scrolling, I'm guilty of it. It does nothing. It's the wolf that gets angry and nothing comes of it. So, I'm asking myself this week, today, what wolf am I feeding? And I invite you to ask the same thing. Are you feeding the wolf of division, anger, and frustration and stuck in a cycle that leads to nowhere? Or are you feeding the wolf of harmony, love, and peace, standing up for the vulnerable and supporting those in need? It's so hard to figure it out, isn't it? Ash Wednesday is a day where we get to talk about the frailty of life. The dust we come, the dust we will return, and how fleeting life is, and how important it is to take every moment as a precious gift. We're also talking about how the things that serve us and don't serve us, maybe to let go and let die those things that are not serving us, and to focus on the God, the life-giving, love-centered God, so that this could be a time of renewal, so that we may come to life in a new way. This Lent, I am going to give up the indiscriminate outrage. I'm going to stop feeding that monster. And I'm going to start by doing a couple of things. This is what I'm doing. You have your own lives. You will know what works best for you. But what I am doing is that I'm going to find a way to read the news and the world, things that are happening in the world, in ways that doesn't create outreach. Reading it during particular times of the day so it's not all day. Maybe, perhaps, not in the two most sacred parts of our lives, the morning and evening, the moment we wake up and the moment we fall asleep. Letting that phone be somewhere else than in my hand. So I'm going to stop feeding that wolf. And I'm going to ground myself in prayer, to ground myself in God's love and Jesus' way, what I talked about 2 weeks ago as Jesus' lane, and put myself entirely in that. And I'm going to feed the wolf of love and kindness by doing things that I can do. If it's volunteering at the food bank, if it's helping out at outreach projects around here, if it's calling a senator and talking about what's happening in the world, I'm going to do the things that I can do so that that outrage becomes directed outrage, so that I feed the wolf of love and action. I invite you to think about the wolves in your lives, to find ways to feed the wolf of God's love, and to walk in that light and to share that light and love in the world around us. Amen.